Social shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, just some social shit for everyone, you know what I'm saying? Like, I made this be myself, so hear me. Woo! I mean, like, we can put all that clown shit away. There's some real shit for you. I'm spazzing right now, so listen, let's go. Yeah. It's in their bones, the thugs in harmony for the love of the money. Then fall victim for the cookie, then turn pussy, it's lonely. You said you hold it down when life get rough, we're here now, so show me. We move them losses to them wins. Heavy pounds, we make it ends meet. Converse with only few who make me feel like I be 10 feet.
What's happening, people? We are back in the building, and today we are taking a look at the Galacticos Volume 2. So we all know about the original Galacticos of Real Madrid, you know, Galacticos basically meaning a team of absolute superstars who have been coveted around the world, all been put together into this super team, this super Galacticos. If you guys don't know, I guess in simple terms, if you've ever watched Space Jam, just think of the Monstars. If you think of them, that's basically what Real Madrid effectively was, you know, at a period of time. So as you guys obviously saw there, you know, with some of the former players who have played for Real Madrid in terms of the Galacticos, we're talking about players like Luis Figo, Zinedine Zidane, Ronaldo, David Beckham, Michael Owen, Robinho. You know, heck, you can even throw in players like Sergio Ramos, and you know, you've even got players who technically by the term and definition wouldn't be called a Galactico, because Galacticos are players who obviously sign for massive fees and, you know, are the best players in the world. But, you know, we can still include players like Raúl, Guti, Roberto Carlos, Fernando Morientes, you know, Iker Casillas. These guys were all Galacticos, you know, but again, some of these players like Iker Casillas, you know, graduated from the youth system. Roberto Carlos was signed in '96 for 3.5 million euros. You know, Raúl from the, you know, youth system. You know, Fernando Hierro, you know, was signed in 1989 for 1 million euros from Valladolid. You know, it's crazy when you think about it in terms of, you know, it's all been mixed in, but you know, the real definition, of course, is, you know, those big signings, the Figos, the Zidanes, the Ronaldos, you know, those were real big statement signings. And then, of course, they continued. And, of course, we can see that, you know, now they've got some of the best players in the world at the moment. You know, players such like Mbappe, Camavinga, Tchouaméni, Valverde, Vinicius Jr. You know, they've just got so many brilliant players, but will they be able to, you know, emulate, or if not do better than the previous Galacticos? Because, you know, the first set of Galacticos, as much as they had, you know, some of the best players, you know, in the world, you know, they weren't as successful as people thought that they would be. Now, obviously, during this period of time, you know, they won 2 La Liga titles at the beginning phases, and they won a Champions League as well. We all remember Zidane's goal in that Champions League final, but they weren't really able to continue that level of success. And, you know, later on down the line, you know, they were exiting Champions Leagues in the round of 16, quarterfinals. You know, it wasn't really the success that everybody had touted for such a superstar team. And there were a few problems. There were a few things going on, you know, in and around the football club. Some of the reasons as well, some people were saying it's because they weren't really investing in a lot of good defensive players. It was all about the attacking talent, you know, the players further up the field, when they could have gone out there and signed, you know, some better defensive talents, which they kind of neglected throughout this time. So there was a lot of things that kind of compiled the reasons as to why this team just wasn't as successful as it probably should have been. But ultimately, I would call that period of time a bit of a failure, if I'm being honest, by Madrid standards anyway. And, you know, throughout the recent history of Real Madrid, you know, probably since the year 2000, they've kind of always continued trying to sign, you know, some of the best players in the world, and sign players, you know, for very, very expensive fees. You know, you think about players like Julio Baptista, you know, they signed Robinho, James Rodriguez. Heck, Jonathan Woodgate has played for Real Madrid, you know, for massive fee as well. You know, they have gone out there and still tried to do the Galactico thing, even if it, you know, meant that, they wouldn't have the real team cohesion, so to speak. But, it just hasn't really, I would say, worked out for them, would I say, somewhat in the long run. I think that, in recent history should kind of show them and tell them, listen, look, you can't go out there and always sign, the best players in the world and have all the best, players in the world in one team, because it doesn't always work out for you in the way that you probably believe, it kind of should be. But it's a bit of a brand with Real Madrid. That's their kind of thing, that's what everybody associates Galacticos. When you think of the word, you immediately think Real Madrid. And by the way, that's not forgetting players like Kaká, who obviously joined the football club as well, obviously plagued by injuries and things like that. And of course, probably, would I say, the biggest of biggest stars you can find out there in football, probably the top 2 greatest players to ever play the game in, Cristiano Ronaldo. Of course, he ended up working out pretty well, I would say, for Real Madrid, of course, during his time there. And I would say, of course, they've added the likes of Toni Kroos, Luka Modric, of course, to the team. But they've kind of gone down, I would say, a somewhat different path as of recently. Signing players like Tchouaméni, Valverde, Militao, Rudiger. They've gone down a bit of a different route where they're not getting the best of the best. Of course, when we look at those players now, they are, some of the best players in the world. But that's now. When they initially signed some of these players, I don't think many people would have called them. Rudiger might be an exception. And of course, they've signed David Alaba as well. But, the likes of the Tchouaménis, the Camavingas, these were up-and-coming youngsters. And it's almost like they kept the same essence of what they do, i.e. signing these Galacticos and signing these, star players, but they decided to go for a bit of a younger crowd. Vinicius Juniors, Hendricks, the younger players, the wonder kids, so to speak, in some aspects for some of these players. Arda Güler, they even had a Martin Ødegaard at one point as well before he, moved to Real Sociedad and, Arsenal afterwards. But they're going down a bit of a different route. Of course, listen, look. And obviously now, in the last couple of seasons, last season signing, Jude Bellingham, one of the best young players in the world, one of the most coveted midfielders in the world. And then this season, getting Kylian Mbappe on a free, from PSG, they are going down. Yes, some of these players are a lot younger than what they were used to kind of getting, back in their kind of heyday, would I say, in terms of, the Zidanes, players at like their peak of the powers. But maybe that might just be more to the quality of players nowadays, the quality of available players really, in today's day and age, as to why, Madrid feel that, with the way that football's going and etc., maybe this is the way to, kind of go and potentially try and mix and blend some of the world's greatest superstars, at this moment in time. So players like Kylian Mbappe, but then also mix that in with the Jude Bellinghams as well. So, it's a bit of a mix and blend, but it's still the same essence. It's still the same Madrid of, Galactico kind of superstar name signings. But most importantly, I think for Madrid fans out there, and, just people who like Real Madrid in a general sense, I think one of the big things from this kind of, I wouldn't even say project because it's been going on for so long now, but this kind of thing about Real Madrid, especially with how it kind of went last time where they weren't really that successful. As I mentioned, they did win those 2 La Liga titles, got a Champions League. Now, they won the Champions League last season. They won La Liga, last season as well. This season hasn't started the season off well. Lost to their rivals 4-0, the El Clasico at the Santiago Bernabeu, so this season's not looking too great. Are they going down the same path? Is it going to be one of those things again where we see that, Real Madrid won't be that successful, but they'll have, some of the best players, in the world? I mean, when we look at it on the face of it, it's kind of like an acceptance around football because Madrid are the biggest football club in the world, bar none. There is that acceptance that if they come knocking, if they come calling, people are just automatically going to go there. But, it may not be as a great a project as, people may think. If you actually look deep into it, it's not that great. It's not, it's not the best projects out there. There are probably better projects, but of course the allure of playing for Real Madrid is, you know, too hard to ignore. So let's wait and see. Obviously, like I mentioned before, this is volume 2, you know, of the Los Galacticos, you know, in terms of in recent history. Of course, they've had, you know, previouses and stuff like that. So let's wait and see. Let's wait and see as to, you know, how this is going to go down, what's going to, you know, necessarily happen, you know, with this team. You know, are they going to be, you know, some of the best players playing at the best team, or is it just going to be some of the best players in the world, but not really necessarily playing for the actual best team? Let's wait and see. But guys, let me know what you guys think about the Los Galacticos Volume 2 or Volume 3 or Volume 4. Who knows what volume, what season we're at with this Galacticos. I mean, depends on what you want to deem, you know, Galacticos for yourselves. You can call it whatever volume you want. I'm going to call it Volume 2 in terms of the players that they've got. But let me know what you guys think, and how successful do you believe that Real Madrid will be in the future.